Welcome to the Wisconsin Music Podcast.
Thanks, Dean. Hey everyone, Zach here from the Wisconsin Music Podcast, and it's Tuesday as we dive into the heart of Wisconsin's music scene, bringing you stories and interviews with musicians, organizations, and businesses making waves right here in the Wisconsin backyard. You can catch all our episodes on your favorite streaming platforms, our website, and we also have video interviews on YouTube. And don't forget, you can also tune in to Fox Cities Indie Radio every Thursday at 6 p.m. and Sunday at 3 p.m. to catch past episodes. But this week we have an electrifying band joining us, ELSE, E-L-S-E. With a history that dates back to 2013, ELSE is known for their dynamic blend of hard rock and progressive sounds, weaving in influences from old school metal, industrial 90s styles, and modern post-rock and ambient music. Their tightly knit guitars, industrial effects, churning bass, heavy drums, and searing vocals creates a sound that's both powerful and unique. After wrapping up their experimental acoustic album Here's Waiting in late 2021, ELSE returned to their roots to work on Seven So Few, an ambiguous project infused with nautical and religious themes. Guitarist and songwriter Kent Herberling brought new layers to the band's music, inspired by his time with Milwaukee shanty-grass band Pay the Devil. ELSE has released 3 full-length albums and a 3-song EP, with plans to release several more EPs in the coming years. The band's core members, John Backus, Kent Herberling, and Shane Maddox, have been friends since high school and reunited after college to create music together. Joining them are Nathan Paul on guitar and Michael Sinchak on drums. Today we're excited to dive into their journey, their latest projects, and what's next for them. You can find out more about ELSE on Spotify, Facebook, and Instagram, and explore their entire discography and press online. So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's dive into this week's episode on the Wisconsin Music Podcast with ELSE. Shane and Kent, welcome to the Wisconsin Music Podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Why don't you kind of give the listeners a little music origin story? How'd you guys get started and kind of like your path from then till now?
I can fill in for myself and the rest of the band, and then Shane, let you talk about yourself. But for most of the band, we kind of started together in music in middle school orchestra, actually. So John, Nate, and I, John and Nate play guitar and bass in the band. We met in middle school orchestra, played throughout high school orchestra together, and then actually first started playing rock music sort of in the band setting in high school. So we did that for quite some time into early college, kind of drifted apart. John and I actually both studied music. He studied education and cello performance, and I studied composition at different schools. So we saw each other occasionally. But then sort of in the years after college, most of us were living in or near Milwaukee and decided we wanted to, kind of get the old band back together, but in a slightly different format. So we started writing new songs and started auditioning and recruiting some other people. That's how we found one of our drummers. But then our current drummer, Michael, actually works with John at Music Notes in Madison and is also a musician by background. And we also met Shane through the audition process. So Shane.
Yeah, so thanks, Kent. Incidentally, I think I was just thinking about this. I want to say it's going on 10 years now. Has it been that long already?
I think you're right. I should know that because it's coincides with that 10-year wedding anniversary. So
yeah, fair enough. It was actually a Craigslist ad that I was answering that Kent put out there, and I'd done a bit of solo work and the basic karaoke here and there, that they decided to give me a shot, and yep, here I am. Ever since then, I haven't gotten rid of me yet, so I guess I'm doing all right.
Give the listeners a little bit of the background to the group, like how it kind of started and kind of the growing pains that you guys had to go through to get to where you are now.
Well, it initially started with just me and Nate kind of deciding we wanted to start writing and recording music again. We were living together at the time, so we just kind of started doing demos, and that continued for about a year or two, where we would just kind of work on ideas individually throughout the week and then come together on the weekend and just record some quick demo ideas. And then we decided we had enough songs that we liked, kind of worked through new ideas, worked on our sound a bit, and decided it was time to round out the band. It was kind of a long process. Sort of the original plan was that I would play bass and Nate would play guitar because we had played together in various groups in various formats, but never that pairing, and that's what we wanted to do. Didn't end up working out in the end because we were having actually a hard time finding another guitarist that we thought really kind of fit the sound. So I just filled in on second guitar duty, and then we brought in John, who we knew is a really good bass player to write bass, to do the bass parts for us. So we did that, and then there were a few drummers I knew that we kind of worked with a little bit, but no one was really quite the style we wanted. Kind of knew more like jazz, softer rock guys, and we wanted someone with a little bit harder edge. So we started auditioning, and drumming auditions took a very long time. We eventually found our first drummer, Joe, who was great. And during that process, we actually found our first singer, who we never recorded with, but did shows with for about a year. But then that singer quit, kind of moved away, and that's where we found Shane. And yeah, we've been just kind of writing with Shane for years now. We actually, on our first CD, some of those ideas, some of those lyrics are from our first singer, but everything else has been, just written with Shane ever since.
Nice. So talking about the recordings, what's let the listeners know what the new project is and kind of like the process that you had to go through from writing to the recording. Did you do it DIY or did you go to a recording studio? And if it was at a recording studio, where did you end up working with? And then what happened after you got done with the mastering?
Well, it was pretty DIY. That's the way we've done pretty much all of our projects so far. Luckily, our drummer has a pretty big basement studio, so he can actually mic up the drums, which is usually the toughest part. Guitar, bass are not so bad to do on your own, and I have a somewhat treated room in my house for doing vocals. So that's kind of how we did everything. But the songs themselves are things that I had done the instrumentals for over the last couple of years, and then kind of picked the best, showed them to Shane and Mike, who mostly contribute to the songwriting process. And we kind of worked together to decide which would be a logical grouping, and then turned it over to Shane for starting lyrics. So Shane, how does that work? Because I don't write too many lyrics.
Yeah, I was thinking about this today, but how the process really works out. Yeah, it's pretty much Kent passes stuff off to me. Sometimes he's got some ideas in mind early on. But the way it works with me, I'll listen to it, time and time and time again. But pretty much from the get-go, from the very beginning, the first listening, I'll have some idea of a accompanying lyrical melody in there for a refrain or a verse or something. And it'll usually just be one part, and then quickly I fill in the gaps. But it'll be, I won't necessarily have obviously all the words in mind from the beginning, but I will have some type of word rhyme scheme initially that I go off of from there. And it builds and builds and builds, and eventually turns into a poem, if you will.
Right. Excellent. And then for the listeners, who would be like your influences that would be kind of like, if they listen to your music, they would go, oh, maybe they're grabbing from this artist a little bit or this artist a little bit. Like, who would be those kind of musicians that you're kind of grabbing from?
Musically, when it comes to just sort of the overall song structure, the guitar and bass parts, there's definitely a lot of Tool in there. One of the songs on the latest album is pretty directly in the style of Rammstein. We do a little bit of Muse with some kind of fun synthy things in addition to the sort of hard rock sounds. Little bits of some 90s industrial here and there with just a few little soundscapes and little rhythmic things. And then as far as vocals go, I know Shane, Linkin Park Am I guessing correctly where I would say that is your number one influence,
Num
probably?
Definitely was gonna say that. My number one vocal influence. I'm also a big Metallica fan, but I don't necessarily incorporate a lot of their vocal influence into what I do with the band.
Yeah, you have a very different vocal register than
Yeah,
the kind
James.
of the
Yeah,
typical metal singer, I guess, actually.
yeah, yeah. I also really do enjoy those other bands as well, for sure.
Excellent. Looks like we have.
Looks like Michael is joining now.
Yeah. Let's see if he can. What's the name of the album? This latest one. What's the title of this album?
This one is called Seven So Few.
Seven So Few. Okay. Now, is there a song on the album that's named? Is this like a title track, or is this just a different, or is this title alluding to something else?
It is alluding to, it's actually taken from some of the lyrics in the first track, which is called Exalted. I don't know, Shane, what got you started down the sort of like religious symbolism path that we have in Exalted?
Yeah, so it was initially meant as a Seven Sins reference. That ended up turning into that number seven ended up working for both that and Seven Seas as kind of a sailing sort of theme as well. But yeah, initially with Exalted, it did kind of stem from the idea of you know, committing all these sins and slowly being in that mindset of kind of not being able to escape that once you're there, once you've committed these, kind of all hope is lost, sort of a vibe.
Okay. And then are the rest of the songs kind of surrounding that type of theme, or is it just different themes depending on which song it is for this album?
Well, we ended up not necessarily intentionally, but finding a pretty unified approach to the songs. So as Shane mentioned, Seven and Seven So Few ended up working out both as a direct reference to Seven Sins, but then it's also Seven Seas. So, and we kind of discovered that we were working on lyrics for the second song, which is called Wake, which is kind of a dual meaning of like wake as in consciousness, but also wake as in what a boat leaves behind. And that song is, it's about dying at sea mostly.
Okay.
But I mean, not directly, but it's actually, that is one that I worked on the lyrics quite a lot too. That one is about sort of being so blindly obsessed with something that you ruin yourself, which as I was writing it, I was like, oh yeah, that's what Moby Dick is about.
You're
that's
right.
exactly what it is. So started incorporating a bit more of the nautical imagery into the lyrics, which just worked out really well. It's something that most people understand because it has been used in literature so often. So we kind of had this initial song that's about committing sins, and then another song about obsession, and then the last song on the 3-song EP. It does end on a hopeful note of some redemption, and there are even some references to like coming out of the water and coming out of the abyss in that one.
Gotcha. Now, does this have to do anything with what we had to go through when COVID hit, or is this something that was not directly influenced by that?
Shane, what got you started? I know for Wake, it was definitely not COVID related. It was more of a just like lifetime of working really too hard on things, only to later go like, I kind of wasted my weekend, and I think my first idea was actually better. But what about you, Shane?
So I know with More to See, incidentally, that was the one I kind of had figured out first lyrically. So the uplifting song was the one that, and actually, I mean, I'll say straight out that for me had a lot of like suicide prevention sort of influence. Just, a lot of people that we've lost due to it, including Chester Bennington of Lincoln Park.
Yeah.
That wish we could have stopped sooner, seen sooner. But so that one, and then really just kind of like progressively the slow transition from one to the next, just kind of the opposite end of that being this again losing all hope and kind of being in that mindset of why bother anymore? And yeah, I don't know if that's initially, we didn't necessarily plan it that way initially, but that's kind of how it wound up.
And then with this recording, when did it come out?
Just about 5 weeks ago. First, or I guess technically second week of December last year.
Okay, so in 2023 December, album came out. And what are your plans going forward with this? Are you, what kind of gigs are you guys looking to get, or what gigs have you guys been playing since then?
We have not been gigging. I think our last gig was right before COVID. We did an acoustic, kind of an experimental acoustic album virtually during COVID. And then this is our first like return to hard rock since.
Gotcha.
Gigging is hard for us. So we have Michael on the phone now. So how many weekends, Michael, do you have with upcoming musicals that you're playing in?
I've got one in February. I've got one in April. And then the family and I might actually be traveling this summer. So I'm not sure when that's happening. Because I've got a kid going off to school. So
Okay.
Yeah. So both Mike and John live in Madison and are pretty active musicians. They both play in musicals. John plays in a string quartet, so he plays a lot of weddings, and kind of let them prioritize those, paying gigs,
Right.
over some of our stuff for sure. But I would like to play out again at some point. When we released this album, there were several bands that we used to play with that, frankly, we haven't really heard from in a couple of years because there were no shows. And
Right.
I think other people are in a similar situation as we are, where maybe they worked on recording, but haven't really got back out quite yet. So a lot of bands kind of reached out to us, and it looks like they're starting to play out and wanting to play out more and looking to set up shows.
Okay. So say it comes to a point where you guys can start gigging, where would you guys want to start, playing out?
That's always a good question, considering that one of the difficulties I find with gigging is that, man, venues close and change hands like every couple of years.
Yeah.
But I know, so I'll start with in Milwaukee here. The X-Ray Arcade, I think, is doing a really good job. Shane and I have been to a couple shows there that just seem well run, sound good. We've played there at that physical location as two different businesses before. I think when it was the Blue Pig and the Metal Grill, I want to say. But it seems to be, even better now. So that would probably be a good one. And then I know there's some pretty nice venues in Madison that we've played before too. So was it?
Where did Barley Pop Live?
Yeah,
Barley Pop Live was our last one. Yeah.
What was it called?
That was it. Barley Pop Live, which I think was the Frequency. That's where we had our last album release, and that was a lot of fun. I'd like to play that again.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Paulie's, I believe, was the very last, the February 2020 show, which I assuming they take us back, we'd gladly play there again.
I can't believe it's been almost like 4 years now since all that stuff came to a crashing halt. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I keep thinking it's like just last year, and it's making me feel like I need to get my butt up and resume pre-COVID activities already. I'm still just sort of in that still just figuring things out again. It's like, well, not really. I've been back at it for a few years. I should say I do play more actively in another group around the Milwaukee area called Pay the Devil, where I play percussion. So I'm doing that, but it is a totally different style. That's a bluegrass sea shanty kind of band. So
that's cool though. That's very cool.
It's very fun. It's very cool. It's fun. Just not a lot of venue or co-headliner overlap with this group.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, kind of going back because you play cello, right, Kent?
Yep, John and I both played cello. We were like stand partners for all of high school, played in Milwaukee's Youth Symphony Orchestra.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just I'm bringing that back up because yesterday I interviewed Hans Christian. Do you know who that is? He runs 330 Recording Studio, but he just got nominated for a cello-based album for the Grammys.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah. So, when you get a chance, check him out. I mean, because I know you're really into playing cello. So Hans Christian is his name. Going on with the questions here, work-life balance. Now, obviously, like you said, you guys aren't playing together out yet, and you guys, and you have a lot of gigs coming up in February and March with performances. But with work-life balance, how is that working out for life? Working, with your significant other or otherwise, and playing music.
I'm curious to hear how it works out for you, Michael, because the fact that you're able to take our demos and listen to them and understand them and like return a recording within a week or two while having children fascinates me.
Well, I mean, children, my daughter's 18, so it's no longer children. So it's nice. The independence is nice. The COVID thing sort of slowed her down a little bit. So I'm still, driving her from place to place, and she'll eventually, get a license now because she's got to run off and get, I believe she's going to lacrosse now. But as far as the life balance and maintaining that, the key now is I've been able to, work from home because of COVID. That's pretty much probably a permanent situation, which is nice. So my hours are my hours, as long as I get them in, I can take work you send me, sit down for a couple hours in the middle of the afternoon while nobody's around and it's nice and quiet, lay down some tracks for you and send them off, and then just make up my work later on in the evening while people are running around here. So the balance is actually, it's probably nicer now than it would have been before all of this broke. So my juggling act it's not nearly as much juggling as I think it otherwise would be.
Cool.
And I think for me and Shane, it's easier. I'm married, but no kids, so I don't truly have dependents to take care of.
John's the one that should be answering this question.
Yeah, that is true. John, our bassist, is he has what, a 2 and 4-year-old, I want to say.
Yeah, they're in that age where you have to watch them.
Yeah. Shane, how about you? Any issues with that?
Yeah, the least of anyone in the group. No pets or significant others or anything to worry about at this particular juncture. So I probably, if I'm ever complaining about not having time, I probably have no excuses. It's I also, as well as Michael, have been working from home now, which has been helpful in that regard, I think, as well. But there's still lots of other things I could be doing, spending my time, and I a lot of times I'd rather honestly be writing music for the band. It's very certainly a great passion of mine. So yeah, it just maybe it comes a little easier. I know, like Kent, he's also super motivated. He's always doing something, it seems like, and again, with his other band, like I swear he could do anything musically. Like he can stand in for just about any musician probably.
Without warning now, left afloat
I'm going to kind of open this up now. Is there something that you individually would like to, like the listeners to know about you and the music that you guys create from a personal perspective?
Let's see. I can jump in and just kind of start with the sort of motivation for writing and kind of what we're aiming for with the songs. I wouldn't call us a studio band per se, but we do focus a lot on really trying to get as good of a sound as we possibly can, put a lot of time into that. So, you know, really hoping that people sit down with a good pair of headphones and really dig in. We layer a lot of things in there, especially with the latest albums. Shane and I stress out about literally every single word and syllable in the lyrics and make sure everything's perfect. So we're really trying to put our best foot forward all the time.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think for me, is this something that I enjoy listening to? You know, does this sound unique and interesting? And, you know, I think we strive more and more for that to be the case. And I think every album that we do sounds a little bit better, as Kent, I think, has mentioned before. But yeah, just really, really striving for that, something unique, something even for taking inspiration from these other songs out there, we're trying to do something that nobody else is doing, really.
I mean, I'm lowest guy on the totem pole because I'm the last guy in. I think I joined these guys in 2019. And it takes me out of my comfort zone because I never used to play this heavier style of rock before. You know, there was some prog stuff, and I love, you know, mixed meters and experimental stuff. But this was a little bit heavier than I thought. And when I first signed on, I mean, I knew they were looking for a drummer, and I asked, you know, can I throw my hat in the ring? And he Kent sent me some demos, and I laid over some tracks over them and sent them back. And it's a lot of fun to play. I have so much fun playing this stuff. And these guys, I mean, they do the writing. I just kind of sit back and play off of them, and they give me something to work with, because I'm not really good at coming up with the concepts, especially in this style. But if you ask me to, you know, add something to it, once I hear the form or the style, what he's going for, and if it's something he doesn't like, you know, he'll say something, and I'll change it up somewhere. So it's really been, like I said, out of my comfort zone, and a lot of fun to play this stuff. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And it's really fun working with Mike. There have been times, especially on the acoustic experimental album we did, where kind of said, you know, I'm not really sure what this song needs. Maybe some light drum set and then a little bit of, you know, auxiliary percussion if you have it. And then a few days later, he sends me like 25 tracks worth of layered. He's used like 20 some different types of percussion, and it's all, you know, it's not all the time. It's just a little triangle hit there, and then different types of hand drums and bass drums and stuff there. And it was just like a delight to receive and mix and add everything in. That was just really fun and imaginative. And I could tell that he was having fun writing and recording the parts, which makes it fun for me to mix and hopefully fun for the listener to listen to.
Yeah, I think that if the performers are enjoying it, that comes across in the performance in itself. I think hopefully people would pick up on that for sure.
Yeah, it is a blast, because he gives me, when he writes this stuff, he gives me the freedom to do that, you know. And my training is composition, and, you know, I've done a lot of orchestrating, and I love hearing different sounds, and I try and, you know, picture what else I'm hearing and take it out of the box a little bit and say, you know, like you said, it needs triangle. I'll throw him a triangle. And, you know, who expects a triangle out of a band like this? So
you never know. You never know. Just a little ear candy here and there. So
yeah.
Sometimes
Yep.
it helps a
Fun.
lot. Any last words before I let you guys go for the evening?
Well, I just want to concur that Michael is he's a monster. He's a he's a master of his craft. Honestly, like I'm impressed more with each album we perform with him. So
Cool. Thank you. No, it's
Yeah.
so much fun, man. I love this style. I love playing this stuff. So I think I just asked Kent last week, okay, what are the next 3? Send them over,
Nice.
And I think maybe that's where we'll leave off is what's coming up next. But yeah, they've already been asking me, what are we working on next? So I actually did spend time this weekend fixing up one of the demos. I have some ideas from the last year or so that I am kind of revisiting and making adjustments to now. And the plan is to kind of do another 3-4 songs like we did this time and get into a pattern of releasing music every 12 to 15 months or so. I've enjoyed that more than doing the once every 3 to 4 years, here 8 to 10 new songs that we used to do.
Nice.
That's stressful, and you go so long in between that it almost feels like you drop off the planet. And I think all of us will enjoy just working on a few songs at a time and releasing them when they're good and ready, not sitting on them for 3 years until some of the other stuff catches up.
Right. So where can they find you on the internet when they go listen to more of your music and get, like download your music or listen to it on streaming?
We're pretty much everywhere you can find music. The band's name is Else, E-L-S-E, though we do spell it with all caps and the squiggly brackets around it. It's probably easiest to just search for the album name called Seven So Few. And then our website, our Bandcamp, Facebook, Instagram are all Else the Band.
Else
So
the Band.
elsetheband.com, Instagram, Else the Band, Facebook, Else the Band.
Perfect. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for being on the Wisconsin Music Podcast. It's great to hear about what you're doing out there in this great state where we have highly talented people like yourselves. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you again for having us.
Yeah, this
Thanks
is
so
great.
much.
Thanks.
Well, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the Wisconsin Music Podcast. Once again, I'm Zach Fell, your host and creator of the Wisconsin Music Podcast, where I love to amplify the great sounds coming out of the Wisconsin state. We have great talent here, great support, great listeners. Thanks to Fox Cities Indie Radio for syndicating this on Thursdays and Sundays, along with their other great programming. So make sure you check out the Fox Cities Indie Radio. A huge thank you to the band Else for joining us and sharing their incredible journey and music. Be sure to check out their latest work, including the 3-song EP and their ambiguous project, Seven So Few, which blends hard rock and progressive sounds with nautical and religious themes. You can find Else on Spotify, Facebook, and Instagram, and explore their entire discography and press kit online. For those of you who are new to our show, the Wisconsin Music Podcast is dedicated to showcasing the incredible talent of Wisconsin-based musicians and the thriving local music community. Our episodes drop every Tuesday on all streaming platforms and YouTube. Additionally, you can catch our episodes on Fox Cities Indie Radio every Thursday at 6 p.m. and Sunday at 3 p.m. Make sure to follow Chris on Facebook, X, and Instagram to keep up with his latest musical endeavors. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week with another fantastic episode on the Wisconsin Music Podcast. If you'd like to be on the show, just go to wisconsinmusicpodcast.com, fill out the guest request form up at the top, ask for your email and your name, and then I'll send you an auto email asking you for more information. If you are enjoying these episodes, please consider donating to the Wisconsin Music Podcast. Donations help pay for the website and putting the podcast up on streaming services, and also getting our name out there to all Wisconsinites and others that are interested in our great music here in Wisconsin. Donations are secure through PayPal and Stripe. All you have to do is go to the website and click on Donate to WMP. You can also head over to our Instagram and Facebook pages and like us there. Leave some comments. Also go to the podcast review section of your podcast player and leave a 5-star review. Would be great. You can also head over to YouTube and watch the interviews and leave comments there as well. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next time.